is up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and today we're taking a look at the Legacy of Revoltech Lupin the Third figure, or Lupin the Third. I'm a big fan of old school anime, and this is one of those like prime examples. Like Castle of Cagliostro is one of my favorite animated films, period. It was directed by Hayao Miyazaki. And when I was little, I remember watching Lupin, the old, 70s versions and whatnot. And he's just something I've always seen. A character I really like, a character with a lot of personality. And this version of the figure really brings all that to the forefront. And that's why I chose the Revoltech over the SH Figuarts. Now, this guy came in two versions. The second version has the green coat, like you see here, green jacket. He looks really cool too. He's pretty expressive, but he comes with a different set of accessories. And he has, different faces and such. They also are making a Gemr figure, which would be pretty dope to have, and I'm thinking of getting him just based on what I've seen, because he's a badass. He's real cool, awesome figure. But like I said before, Figuarts is making some too, and I don't know, I might have to pick those up too. I just know they come with less accessories, less faces. There's less that you can do with them, but what's here is awesome. I mean, Figuarts, they're always the shit, but this is one of those times where it feels like you get more in the package with your Revoltech than you do with your Figuarts. Also, Figuarts is making a Fujiko figure, and there is none in the Revoltech. They're also making a Inspector Zenigata figure, which it doesn't look like that's coming from Revoltech. They just did two of the main characters. I really want Goemon, you know me. I gotta get the sword slinging dude. But anyway, we got the Revoltech Legacy of Revoltech figure here, and I love this figure. He's got so much character, even with his different articulation scheme. It all works, and there's ways that when you pose him, all the pieces kind of fit together. And they were slick too. This little, the Revoltech case or box that fits all his stuff actually doubles as a safe. So you can have him cracking a safe. I mean, that's just brilliant, Now, I normally don't talk about packaging, and I've shown you a little bit of packaging so far, but just look at the poses and the personality that comes through with this figure. I mean, it's insane. I was so impressed when I was seeing, looking at pictures, because at first I didn't realize that it was a Revoltech figure. And then the more I see it, I'm like, wow, that whole dynamic shtick that is Revoltech comes through perfectly here. But you can get him to stand up perfectly straight because he's a scrawny, skinny character. You can even get him to sit down and it looks good. Not like past Revoltechs where they just can't stop sashaying and shimmying and shantaing and shit all over the place. This is exactly what I always wanted from my Revoltechs. I want character, I want the ability to position him a certain way, pose him how I want to pose him, and this one does it. So let's stop talking and jump into the review. So the sculpt on this guy, it's perfect. I can't really point out something on him that doesn't work to me sculpt wise. Even the parts that work with the very specific articulation scheme, they're really well done. The paint is immaculate. I don't have a whole bunch of flyaway pieces, a whole bunch of splotches where they miss stuff. None of that. And Revoltech usually has that more than Figma and SH Figuarts. So I'm impressed, And it still strikes me as strange because he's such an old character that I didn't expect a figure of him anytime soon. And they did a really good job, capturing the spirit of this character, the personality of this character, and just everything from his stature to his facial expressions, you know what I mean? Like, that's a goofy expression that he tends to have. There's a little bit of like weirdness in the teeth on the left-hand side. It's they kind of drew the individual teeth, and you can kind of see that the coloring gets kind of spotty. It almost looks like he has dirty teeth, or like they didn't cover that area properly with paint. But besides that, no splotches, no issues. It's a beautiful looking figure. I love the fact that they got his proportions perfectly. He's tall, he's lanky, he's got big feet, got big old hands, he's got a big old monkey head, and big old pork chop sideburns and stuff. And it just looks like he is who, you know, he's supposed to be. A lot of times you get figures, for instance, like the icon Superman. It's supposed to be Superman, but he can't stand like Superman. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that a lot of reviewers don't point out, but I guess if you are an artist as well, you'll notice that these are necessities. You know, when you get an Alex Ross Superman, he stands perfectly. Feet planted, fists are, his hands are in fists, they're clenched, but not in a way that says, I'm going to whoop your behind. It's a determined kind of stance, you know? And, I mean, it also could look like he's going to whoop your behind, but it looks more like I'm ready to protect people. Whereas this guy, he just looks like he's a mess of impulsiveness. You know what I mean? Just a goofball. Like here, he fell out of his chair. He's just like, he's all jacked up, and you'll see. It's just so much interesting detail and personality that you just can't. And it's cartoony too, which I can't fault them for that. There's something, I would expect this level, this look from a Figma and never from a freaking Revoltech, you know? Even though Revoltechs do a lot of anime characters too, theirs always look more stylized and less on model than Figma's. But this guy, he's on point. So yeah, Sculpt and Paint, it's like S-class shit. I'll just say, let me say A++ for this guy. You know, it's really, really, really well done. Accessories. Dude comes with a ton of accessories, and this is why I chose this figure. Stuff that you could use for other figures, you know, with setups for other figures. Unlike the Figuarts I think comes with 2 heads. And this guy comes with a total of 4 heads if you include what's on the body at the time. There's no face changing, none of that shit. It's actually 3 separate heads other than whatever he's packaged with. I love that. Simple, make the switch, call it a day. I don't like the eye crap. He does come with a Revoltech stand. You know how much I hate these things. They rarely ever do the job. You always have to fiddle with them a little bit or do the nail polish thing to keep the Revoltech joint from twisting. So, this stand I like. It's a single piece of plastic, could be acrylic I think, and you just peg that into his foot, situate it, and it will keep him standing. And I'll show you some images of him running with that. Same thing with these here. These are gunshot effects. So someone's shooting at him, and you can see where, like almost a tracer, and then impact. Awesome, I could use that for so many things. I use that with my cops figures, you know? Here's an image of it in motion, so you can see, or in action. You can see what I'm talking about. Just point it where you want it pointed. You can kind of have a tracer saying the shots are coming from there, and then boom, there you go. He comes with that table, the cup, the chair, and his Revoltech box, which is shaped like or fitted to look like a safe. Character, man, this all adds to the character. You can't complain when you get this much. The chair actually folds up too. Then you get a bevy of hands. I dig the hands. They're all on point. They're all on model. They're all like effectively done. I can't complain. And of course you have the figure, and the figure is pretty awesome too. I just love all the expression and the expressiveness, and the fact that he can be goofy, but the dude is capable, so you know the job will get done. He's definitely one of those characters who he can do whatever you set him out to do. You know what I mean? That's usually the point of most of those movies, is he doesn't look like much, but he'll get the job done. A lot of the accessories do a really good job playing with the whole gentleman thief angle. I should just say the thief angle, really. Like this hand with the jewel, perfect. These bullet effects or gunshot effects, they're pretty awesome. I love the fact that he with the combination of the stands and those parts, it just looks the way it's supposed to look. You know what I mean? Like everything feels like it's substantial. You know, and it's dynamic, and that's the important part. A lot of times the dynamism is cut down because of a lack of accessories or a lack of interaction with the accessories. Some figures don't use their weapons right. The fact that they have the hand sculpted with the gun and that's an option is pretty awesome. And the fact that it's an old school Mauser, it looks right. You know what I mean? It doesn't look shitty. It looks appropriate. He's kind of an old school hero. That's why I've kind of been slow to check into the remakes, the new series, because he's not a modern character, and modernizing him is not, to me, it's not necessary. But we'll have to see what the show is like. But yeah, I just love playing around with him and making him do what he does. He definitely feels like a character from times gone by, but the design itself is timeless. So just seeing how all the parts work for the benefit of the whole, that's awesome. And having a gun hand, where the gun is part of the hand, it's pretty awesome, and it's easy to pose him. You don't have to worry about the gun falling out of his hand as you put him in poses you want to put him in. And I think that's a nice touch. Sometimes I wish other companies would do that. Not all the time, just sometimes. And he comes with this rope. It's like a hand holding a line connected to a hook. The way that the hook is fed through the hand, the hook is on the bottom part, and I think it's there so you can hook his foot into the into the hook, and he can be holding onto the rope from above, and it works. I mean, it's stuff you see. I showed it to you on it was on the back of the box in the beginning of the video. It just looks right. It doesn't look stupid. You know what I mean? And that's one of those things that you want to make sure that your character does. You don't want him to look stupid. I enjoy how goofy he is, though, man. Like, that's refreshing, because so many of my characters are pretty serious, or you just can't see their faces because they have masks or helmets. So it's beautiful and awesome to have a goofy face in the character. It just plays back to the points that I've made before about variety. You gotta have some variety in your collection. I mean, if you don't like many things, then hey, more power to you. But for me, what makes my collection awesome for me is that I have such a variety. This accessory here, the hand with the lockpick, I'm like, yes, this is pretty awesome. This is something I didn't know I needed. I need a Batman with a lockpick. You know what I mean? And this guy's got a lockpick. And the fact that you can have him play with the fucking Figma box, Figma box. Wow. With the Revoltech box. And, have it set up like a safe. It's pretty awesome. I mean, granted, you wouldn't pick the safe like that, but you know what I'm saying? Just the idea. It's pretty awesome. And then, his combination of hands and faces. You have splayed open hands that look good for those, like, oh shit, you caught me expressions. And then you have the, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, he looks like someone caught him. And, or he's in trouble, or about to be in trouble, or he's embarrassed. Like, severely embarrassed. I love that. And then there's the I'm super tired, or I'm knocked out, or I'm straight up in perv mode. You know what I mean? face. And it just works. It works for a number of things. And that's one thing I dig about a lot of well-done anime-related characters in figure form that have multiple faces, is that sometimes the expressions that they choose to give that toy can be used for multiple things, like Bruce Lee and Woody, the Revoltech Woody figure. Beautiful figures, cool expressions. And then just his articulation is so natural. Like, it feels a little bit more natural than typical Revoltechs do. And you can get natural poses out of him, and he doesn't look, out of place. Even with the weird segmented shoulders, I was going to put that as a problem or a nitpick, and it's not. I mean, it's just the build of the figure. And I figure some people might have issues with that, but I think it's fine. You know what I mean? I don't have any issues with it. So you know, still beautiful figure, well done, everything. Now we got to talk about the stand. I hate these stands with a passion. They're very strange, very hard to use. They just don't maintain the friction for very long. You know, you use it like 2-3 times. Next thing you know, it's slack. You got to use your clear nail polish or your floor polish, and it's not cool. Now the second stand that goes under his feet, I love that thing. It just pegs into his feet and it holds perfectly. It's like just the right size. It's a little bit bigger than the hole. So once you put it in there, God, this sounds so bad. But once you put him on the peg, it just doesn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? And that's what you need. I wish that Revoltech would stick with these kind of stands and somehow devise a new flight stand, because their flight stand sucks ass. You really got to work at getting the character to be positioned correctly in order to use that flight stand to the best of its ability. But this looks really good, especially for running poses. As you can see, very dynamic. And it's very sturdy. So, you know, that's what you're looking for when you want to put your dude in a running pose and then put the bullet stuff going on around him, you know, like I showed you earlier. So this one's a win. All right, we're going to take a look at Lupin's articulation. And he has some odd articulation, and you know I have gripes about Revoltech's articulation, but this guy works for some reason. So we'll start at the head. It's got, you know, left and right. It's a strange kind of situation here. So you've got a Revoltech joint right there that does the looking down and the looking up, but then you have a joint in the neck right here in the base that also looks down further, so you get that much looking down, and it doesn't really move up that much, and it doesn't move side to side, although the head on the top post can, excuse me, move head side to side. Shoulders move up like so, which is pretty nice. And then they do like the butterfly joint you get in Marvel Legends and with your figure arts, so that his arms can go back really far, which is beautiful. So that's as far out as his arm goes. You can kind of mess with it, and then you get this gapping, which I don't really mind. It doesn't bother me for this figure for some reason. The arm can go up all the way. Black power, power to the people. He can bend his elbow that much. There are swivels anywhere there is a joint for the Revoltech joint. Arm can go this much over, which is awesome because of the shoulder. And then you can put his arm back down. He's got a diaphragm joint right there. There's just one Revoltech joint in there. His legs go up this much. You have to turn them to the side, and they go out that much, which isn't bad. He's not a Kung Fu master. The swivel is built in, because like I said, anywhere you have a Revoltech joint, you have a swivel. Single bend, but it's over 90 degrees, as you can see. Then he has the foot with the Revoltech joint, so you've got your swivels, you've got your pivot, you've got your point, and you've got your pull back. So altogether, Homeboy is really posable. Things that you should look out for is that if you move his leg too much, if you bend it too much because it's single jointed, it'll pop out. But it's so easy to put back in, and it's nothing some floor polish or some nail polish, clear nail polish can't cure. Also, his tie is articulated. It's like on a little hinge, I hope, because it's been moving. But all in all, I really like this figure. He's so expressive that it just makes me happy. And I enjoy playing with him so much. He's just really dope. I think you guys will dig him too. So I know a lot of you guys want to know how he compares to other figures height-wise, because he is a Revoltech. He's on the small side. He's about 5 inches tall, maybe just a little bit under I mean, a little bit over 5 inches, maybe just like a hair over 5. But you know, he sizes up pretty well next to a lot of other 5 and 6 inch scale lines. I didn't have any issues with him. I figured he's supposed to be kind of a small guy. That's how I imagine him anyway. I'm pretty sure in comparison to, like, you know, the other guys in his crew, he's probably skinnier, and actually him and Daisuke are about the same, Jigen. So yeah, there's an example. And now we've come to my favorite part, it's the bottom line. So, this figure, if you are a fan of Lupin the Third, then this is an awesome figure. This is one of those figures where it perfectly captures the essence of the character perfectly. You know, his perviness, his goofiness, his slyness, everything. This figure, it captures it perfectly. And you have options as to which version of this figure you want to get even more personality. And I showed you some of that earlier in the beginning of the video. Paint is quality. Accessories, super quality, because that's the deciding factor. You have both Figuarts and Revoltech, and this time they're actually comparable. Normally, Revoltech is always blown out of the water by Figma and you know, SH Figuarts, but in this case, the accessories and the amount of personality these accessories give him helped make this a viable choice. You know, even with the weird cuts in his shoulders, even with, you know, a little bit of flash in certain areas, like on his hands, on the joints where his hands are, it's still a viable option when it comes to, you know, possibilities for this character being fully realized in action figure form. So if you are a fan of old school anime and a fan of good figures, there's an example. And he's not that expensive. I've seen both the Figuarts and the Revoltech versions for 30 some odd bucks, from 33 up. So, I mean, considering everything you see in this package, you don't get this much shit with any single Marvel Legend. And some of them go for 3 times that amount, twice that amount. So if that could count there, same thing with actually some of these WWE Elite figures. Some of them go for, you know, 30 something bucks and come with 1 accessory, you know what I mean? Or 2 accessories, like a belt and a t-shirt. So it's like, this right here is a lot for the price, you know? And everything is built very well. He's a sturdy figure. You won't feel like things are gonna pop off and break while you're playing with him. So I would strongly, highly recommend this figure. If you're looking for a spot to get in, like onto the Revoltech bandwagon or the Revoltech train, so to speak, this might be a good place to jump in on. So anyway, this has been my review of the Revoltech Legacy Lupin the Third. I think it's an awesome figure, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Definitely recommend it. I'm Strydent, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Got a whole bunch more on the way. Get your Q&A stuff in so I can have a bunch of stuff to talk about. A bunch more stuff. You know, I'll find stuff to talk about. And yeah, that's it for me. You guys have been great. I look forward to talking to you guys in the comments. Peace outside.